This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is a review of Star Trek Discovery, Episode 3, Season 5, Episode 3, Jinaal. Jinaal. Yeah. So they go to Trill, and Adira and Gray sort of break up, but then at the end, sort of not. There's an ancient alien Trill lady who has the consciousness of the person they're looking for, the Jinaal symbiote, who's 800 years old, and the symbiote then puts her mind somehow, like a Vulcan Katra, they mixed them up, into the doctor, Dr. Culber, it works out, and the doctor and the captain, again, the captain and the main CMO go on a mission. And they go to these creatures. They are like they're basically velociraptor things. They're what are those things from Jurassic World that cloaks itself? It's one of those. Yeah, but crossed with sort of a bug lizard thing. There's a Termorelian crewman, the alien that lays eggs, the Saurian Termorelian alien. Excellent. Or he's a Draconian, possibly, on the ship that's been around for a while there. We find out that he's a Draconian, of course. Yeah. The bad guys aren't visible in the story until the very end, when one of them shows up during the funeral for the old lady that died. They make a parable of the old man who came to the temple to see the 12-year-old, to see the baby Jesus who showed up. The baby Jesus showed up there, coronated, and then he dies. So they made a parable of that. They also the bait and switch with the creatures were guarding a nest. It would have made sense to mention that. Also, we know she's pretending like she's Captain Kirk. It has been for the whole series, but really, you don't send the captain down to do the away mission. You just don't. And I know she's the main character and that she's trying to be Kirk, but you don't. You don't do that. I've done it in my stories too, but I've usually made it make sense in my fan films. Like okay, they needed the captain to come down to help them or something. But usually it's the away team that's down there. Usually it's up to them to solve the mission. They're the away team. Yeah. They have a scene where Saru and the ambassador are having discussions and stuff, and maybe postpone or not postpone the marriage because there's totally a dick Vulcan, and he's interfering, and it's like Saru's like over 7 feet tall. The character is. The actor actually walks on stilts. But yeah, couldn't he just pimp slap that guy? That's what I was thinking. Why don't you just go, "Excuse me, sir, but this is called a pimp slap." Bam! Stay out of my affairs. Well, I see your point. Very well, sir. But no, violence don't solve it. So we gotta be like the Crips and the... No. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah, the clue was really obvious. They could have just beamed in and got it, and that would be the end of the story. The personal transporter thing is kind of silly. Makes them like Q. It's just, no. They gotta quit doing that. The whole idea that the ship can zap in and out of places with the spore drive is also silly. The alien network is beyond that. Oh, and we have Captain Raynor demoted to Commander Raynor, so he can be the first officer. And he's in the B story is him trying to like meet up with the crew and know their reports and stuff. And he's kind of a dick, but it's like and then Tilly dresses him down, which makes no sense. No, I mean, I like Tilly and everything. She is based on the Sandra Talisman character from Silly Trek, so that's cool. She would do that, but it's still a little still a little odd that she got away with it. She is based on that character. And over on Lower Decks, Tendi is based on the same Sandra Talisman character. And other ones that are similar to her. So, yeah. Original name, Gatov. but Talisman in the Cillian version. but yeah, so we have a reference to other stuff as well. Of course, the bad guy lady is actually there at the funeral at the end. Yeah, she's been in secret or whatever. I think it's a funeral at the end. Like that was the implication. Yeah, it was a funeral. It was a fairly decent Star Trek episode. The problem is kind of the problem inherent in the future episodes, in that they kind of don't mean anything, because they're kind of operating from, okay, they're doing yet another story arc where they have to find something and stop something and put it together. And Booker's family was apparently, the name Booker is a name and place name or something, and it doesn't really mean anything. Like, yeah. Also, it's kind of weird that in Star Trek, and it's the case with the Vulcans and the Trill, and the Andorians, and the Klingons, calling themselves their race. It would be like calling humans Earthers instead of humans, because they're from Earth. Why wouldn't they choose a different name for themselves? But that's a Star Trek nitpick. That's fine. It's like Earthers, you Earther. Yeah, I would be like, okay. So, yeah, the Trill and Grey thing. Clearly, if they don't go this cheap route, they're going to. Someone is going to die in every relationship in this story. It just looks that way, the way they're doing it. That's the way they would do a Star Trek relationship. That doesn't work. Unless they do one that does... unless they do one that's cringe, like Odo and Kira, in which case, no, they don't end up dying, but Odo ends up leaving at the end. Cringe. The 800-year-old symbiote thing is also an error, because when Grey Tau looked at his previous hosts, one of his first hosts was a Starfleet captain from the Picard era, which means that he's 800. His symbiote is 800 years old or more. So they were surprised at the old lady being 800 years old and having symbiotes and stuff from that same time period, Jinaal. But technically there would be, so that's not unusual. There one sits, literally. There's Grey. Grey Tau is 800 years old. He's a fairly old symbiote. He's Javar Tal, or Javon Tal in Silly Trek, is a contemporary of the Jinaal Tal in the story. Their symbiotes have been around that long. He would have known the old lady. They should have just gone like, it's like, they would know each other. They would be like, that's it was one of the scientists on the planet. Yeah, that's my secret. It's probably what it's going to be. Also, one of them is going to die because they always kill the gay guy. They always do that in sci-fi. They kill the gay guy. But yeah, the kid playing Grey, though, he does, and they're not really kids. They just look like kids. They're kind of impish looking. I believe Blue DeBario was 27, and Ian Alexander is like 20, 24, 25. They're actually in their 20s, but they started out as teenagers. But yeah, she was playing a teenager. The two of them are. Yeah. And that's kind of the character that I was looking for with Tam and Kestra on Chimera. It's nobody current that's a kid either. It's people that are in their 20s now. And also, I was kind of cribbing from Discovery with the tall character. Kind of. A little bit. But they're not lovers in this version. In my version, they're just... She has a lover, but they have a lover. But the other trans person does not. The other one's not even trans. The Kestra is not trans. But Tam in my story is trans. And we've had other ones appear. We had a Jesse Gender archetype appears as the character in there. So that was cool. It's another trans person. There she is. Or a archetype. Anyway, so not really, but fandom. And that's my review. Now.